Okay, it's 7 o'clock. You guys want to get started? That way you can go home and eat your dinner. I'm Dave Kittleson. I'm with the city. I'm an associate engineer. This is Kevin O'Connell. He's a consultant working with the city. And this is Maureen. She's also a city employee. And thank you again for coming tonight. Kevin's going to go over a little presentation on utility projects up in your neck of the woods. And with that, do you want to one more thing? Please sign in if you can on the board. So with that, Kevin, you want to get started?
Start dancing?
No dancing.
As mentioned, my name is Kevin O'Connell. I'm the program manager of both the sewer and the water pond projects. What we're going to talk about primarily tonight are the water improvements that we're going to be making up in this area. So if you could go ahead and just a word about fire preparedness. We'd like to make sure that that's on your mind. I'm sure it is, but that's actually tonight's project is quite a few of the projects are set up to actually improve the preparedness for the Holiday Lakes and the Jackson Oaks areas. Just a show of hands, I gave this presentation or a shorter version of it in August last year. Was anybody here from that? Okay. So some of this is going to sound repetitive, but please bear with me. So next slide. Okay, so the objectives are to enhance firefighting capabilities, the Holiday Lakes, Jackson Oaks, and then the Holiday 1, 2, and 3. That's the area down the hill. They start at the curve on East Dunn. Enhance system reliability. So we're going to try and minimize some of the outages, provide a sustainable water quality, and then provide redundancy in operations and flexibility. Now, the reason that some of these things are pretty important, obviously the firefighting capabilities is something that's on everybody's mind. But the other items here, as we'll find out in a minute, there is one 8-inch pipeline that starts at the bottom of the hill and then runs all the way up to the top of the hill. It's a very high pressure pipe, and it's prone to damage because of that. Next slide. So the one I'm talking about is actually this one here. And then it heads up to the tanks in that area. The reason I show this particular slide is that this red one here is the existing 8-inch pipe that ends at Flaming Oaks Court. This one here is the one that runs up the Thomas Gray. Has anybody ridden on the recent Thomas Gray roadway improvements? Yeah. Kind of fun, huh? Got rid of some of those bumps. So anyway, this is pretty much the transmission system that we have now. This one here does most of the heavy work for the upper regions, and this one here just concentrated in this area and then down. Next slide, please. So some of the improvements that we're working on is the Jackson Oaks well rehabilitation. There's a map behind this that I'll show you those in a second. The Oak Canyon Booster Station rebuild. That's a project that David here is working on. East Dunn Water Transmission Main Pipeline. That's the one that runs up East Dunn, parallel to the 8-inch. The East Side Water Supply Reservoir, that's by another word, it's a tank that's going to be on the hillside, and then the East Dunn Booster Station Rehabilitation. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first one is the Jackson well number 3. We were supposed to get the well rig in this morning and get it all set up so that we're running, say, Thursday this week of actually drilling in the new hole. The new well. The existing well is about 75 years old, which is pretty good for a well. So it's lasted, the city's really gotten their money out of it, and it's lasted a good long time. But over the years, its production has been dropping, and we need to bring it back up to meet our needs.
Kevin, if I can interrupt. That's the well behind the fire station, at that corner where the big green screens are up.
What was it needed 75 years ago for?
I'm sorry, I couldn't
What
hear you.
was it needed for 75 years ago?
That's a great question.
That was all Jackson Ranch, cattle ranch, there was no need for a city
Yeah.
out there. The city wasn't even out there.
Yeah, I can't tell you, to tell you the truth.
Okay?
And I don't think any of us really know.
And why are they putting the screen on
Sounds
Yeah, it's to cut down the amount of sound.
And debris that,
It comes down after they finish it.
So that material that you see, the green material, that's especially designed to try and absorb as much sound as possible. On the west side of the site, there's going to be a series of containers for water that's needed for the well drilling process, and that's going to absorb the sound on that side of the project. So really what we're trying to do is be good neighbors. As it turns out with the well, once you start digging a well, you need to continue it. If you stop, then you damage the liner in the well, and some of the mud that you're using to lubricate the well as it's going down goes into the water-bearing strata, and it's very hard to get it back out again. So it'll run for about, I think it's about 14 days with the 24 hours a day.
How deep is that well, and is the new one going to be deeper?
No, they're actually about the same depth. It's down about 500 feet. So, one of the, I'm going to talk about these in the order that they're being constructed. This one the well we're working on right now, and it should be starting within a few days. Now this one up here, as mentioned, is a project that David's working on. That was put out to bid, and you've got about a month or so before the construction starts full-time.
The contract's been signed, looking at submittals, so you might see some construction activity mid to late April, actually.
Okay, great.
Break ground. So next one.
The next project that's coming up is the Phase 1 East End transmission main. That's going to run here from the existing booster station that's at the bottom of the hill at the curve. It's going to run up parallel with the existing 8-inch that's there, come around the curve, and then head to about this location here before it will connect into the new reservoir there. This project is exciting because it's going to replace the 8-inch that's already at this location. Well, let me rephrase that. It's exciting for me because the transmission main, it being a 16-inch, and this is the first phase, and we'll talk about the next steps years down the line. But we'll be able to get a very large amount of water up into the hillside fairly quickly. The tank or the reservoir at this location will go ahead and be a transfer point for the water that will head up to the tanks here, the existing Holiday 1 and 2 tanks up here. So this will enable us to get rid of the very high pressure 8-inch line that runs up the hillside now and connects to the to those lines.
So are you going to come back and talk about the time frame of when the street's going to be closed and all that kind of stuff?
So, I mentioned Thomas Grade already. One of the things that we wanted to do with the Thomas Grade was to get some of the changes there. We received many requests to go ahead and improve that roadway before we started this project here. We had talked about originally running the project so that the traffic would go up the hill, just the one-way traffic would go up the hill along the East Dun, and then come down Thomas Gray. We've since thought to just go ahead and continue the two-way traffic on East Dunn, and just have a rolling stops as the construction runs up the hill. So just treat it like a normal construction. Yeah,
Good plan.
yeah. So and that was actually based on a recommendation that occurred at the August meeting. We received several of them, and we're working them into the design where we can. It's like one of the concerns was about getting a hydrant on this line. We redesigned this pipeline, its location here, so that we could get a hydrant at this point along East Dunn. So, next slide, please. So, future improvements will include the transmission main from to the Holiday Lakes Reservoir, the booster station at East Dunn tank, and the mothball, the pressure piping at the Holiday Lakes. Next slide. And so, really, that's what we're going to do here. We're not going to cut out this 8-inch line, because if there is some sort of an emergency, it would be nice to have a second way to get the water up the hill. So we're going to mothball this line here. And then in future years, we're going to put in another booster station, very similar to the one that's located at the bottom of the hill here. And then put in new piping up into this area so we can get it to the existing Holiday reservoirs.
We're only gonna have one water tank though, right? You're not gonna put another
Well,
water
we're
tank?
going to put a tank farm in with 1 million gallons of peat now. It's just, the tank is just 850,000 gallons.
Only,
Yeah, well, I'm used to putting in, I used to run a water district, and while I was there, I put in 5 million gallons in 4 tanks. And it was just what we were working with there were wooden tanks. So they're not as good in an earthquake.
What's the diameter of the 150,000 gallon tank?
2 miles and it's about 85 feet.
Well, I live 8 bigger than my house.
Yeah, yeah. We actually looked at your house, setting the design criteria.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. We wanted to be in the kitchen. Next slide, please. So the Jackson Oaks. This actually is a photo. This is the well. What the well we're digging now would be about here. And as you drive up the hill, you can see that there's a section of the fence that's open, and you can look back, and there's about a 16-inch diameter steel pipe that's coming out of the ground about this high. That's the actual location of the well. In this case, what we're going to do is we're going to rebuild the equipment inside the well building. Take advantage of the fact that there's already a building there and that a lot of the piping is in place. The next slide. This one is David's project here. They have the fire pumping equipment outside the building now. The pump to boost the water up in this area. So they're going to be putting in a new pump building. I forget what this was. Emergency generator. And it required a new transformer to run the site.
Is that strictly for fire? No, that's the whole
Water to water.
water, right?
Right.
So will the generator be running, like, do you have to,
Only when there's no electricity.
Yes.
I mean, like, so there's gonna be noise from turning the water inside the tanks, or is it?
No, the emergency generator is set up just for that. So if there's demand on the water and the power is out, then the generator would need to run. And when the pressure gets up to where it needs to be, it would run for a while longer until it was certain that there wasn't a change in the demand, and then it would shut down. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an emergency generator there now that's old, probably loud. We're putting in a more powerful one, or quieter one, or modern one, too. Less emissions as well.
Yeah.
And
Yes,
it does,
less
it does
NOx.
run for maintenance purposes. You have to run the generator.
Generally once a month for about a half an hour.
Yeah, something small. We just have to kind of turn it on and run it a little bit, make sure it's operating correctly.
Is that next slide?
We're not adding anything new, we're just replacing all those.
You're all familiar with East Dunn. The, pretty much the new 16-inch water line is going to hug the, what's called the fog line, the 4-inch white line that's there now. The 8-inch is just on the other side of that line. So they'll run parallel all the way up the hill. One of the things that we're doing with the 8-inch is we're interconnecting with the 8-inch so that we have redundancy for the water up the hillside. So if there's a break in the 8-inch line or 16-inch line, or we need to get into the 16-inch line to do work, we can still keep the water running up the hill. Redundancy is a very powerful thing when you're running a water distribution system.
Does
So-
that mean there's some kind of valve or something that diverts the water, or what, how do you prevent it?
It's a series of 3 valves. So when the connection between the 8 and the 16 come in, it comes in at a T, and there'll be a valve on the top, the bottom, and then on the T line that's coming in from the 8. And the same thing will occur on the 8-inch line. And the reason that you want to do that is that because the 16 inch is a transmission line and it's running up the hill primarily, you can shut down the connection with the 8 so that the water drops out of the reservoir and it does the job that it's doing right now.
So these are real reliable, so we don't have to worry about them failing and having to tear up the street to fix them and stuff?
You know, I am not going to promise that. Because if
Right now, there's no valves that the straight.
oh, there are valves.
There are
Yeah,
valves.
and each one of the side streets that are up there now, there's a valve that connects the side street. And what we're going to be doing is continuing that connection so we can run it off the 16 and we can run it off the 8. There's also something called a pressure reducer. There's 2 of them that we're going to be installing. One down by Gallup and then the other one up. It just where the, let me see. By seeing this sign here, it actually runs off here to the Porta Valle, I think it is. And it just replaces a pressure reducing valve that's in there now. So
One more question. Are these manual valves, or like if you have a problem, you have to manually change
Yeah.
them?
Yeah, I've only ever run tanks with the automatic valves, and those were controlled by a SCADA system. But you know, from my point of view, it's not a good idea to run all your system in automatics because stuff happens. Somebody can hack it, you know. So yeah, so we're at 100%. I finished up the comments on the 100% plans. They're going back. They'll be ready for final. So in 2 weeks, we're going to be putting this project out to bid. And then about 2.5 months, maybe 3 months later, the actual construction will start. It shouldn't last more than 3 months. You know, when you're digging in the ground, you always find something. So hopefully it won't be more than that.
Hopefully it's only an 8-inch pipe you find.
But what's that?
Hopefully it's only an 8-inch pipe you find.
Well, hopefully we don't find any 8-inch pipe unless we're specifically digging with shovels. Okay, next one.
I have a quick question for you.
Yes?
Oh,
You're not allowed to question.
no, well, maybe it'll help clear things up. Because you had mentioned you're going to provide traffic control, so the road will be open both directions during the day. It'll just be a small construction zone. There'll be flaggers at both ends, so you'll be letting one lane of traffic go at a time, right? So at the end of the day, 4 or 5 o'clock, the project
Plates.
closes. We put plates down and the road opens up, no more flags. You will have to drive over some plates to try to set those in. For you.
Yes,
That
thanks
that reminds me
for,
of another question. These sections you're gonna work on, what's the length of the section? I mean, is, I don't know, 20 foot, 40 foot, or, it's not the whole hill you're gonna walk off, it's just small
Yeah.
sections at a time?
the way we're setting it up is we're allowing the contractor to do what he can do in a day. And that's digging the line, preparing the trench, setting the pipe in, putting in a marker cable so we can find it again pretty easily, and then coming back with the trench and a temporary asphalt on top of it. I'm thinking.
Every night they're gonna put a plate on it, is that what you said?
Well, plates would be for the parts that, the pipe ends here. And we're going to probably allow about 20 feet, that's the length of a pipe, where it would be plated and probably another 5 feet past that. So it works out to about 25, 30 feet.
So the good news is that the section where you do the bypass, the one-way deal, is no more than 40 feet or something.
No, it may be as much as 200, 250 feet. And that's because the contractor will have a crew that's going ahead and they'll have another crew that's doing the prep for the piping, another group that's doing the piping, and then the last group that's filling in the top of the trench, pounding it so that we don't have any divots in the roadway.
And the length that they have to go on each turn is only up to where the tank is, it doesn't go all the way the rest of the hill or not?
No, we're going to take it up a little past Flaming Oaks Court. And then, so just as it takes a turn, it's going to go a little past the Flaming Oaks
Right.
Court, and then we're going to stub that end. We're basically going to put a plug at the end of the pipes there, so that everything on the hillside that was working on the 8-inch line is going to be working with the 8-inch.
You don't plan to tear up the road from Flaming Oak all the way at Jackson Oaks, right?
The next project will do that. We're going to pick up where we left off with this project, and then we're going to go around the curve and set it so that we're connecting to the tank.
So we're gonna have 2 times we're gonna shut the road down and not just one?
Basically, yes. And it's probably be more than that. I'll show you that next, I think. Next slide. Oh, yes, sir.
While this is going on and nothing's going to happen on Thomas Bridge, you still use that as a walk, right?
Right.
Are they going to finish grade, the asphalt topping on Thomas grade?
I'm not sure.
I think everybody on Carl Beer, Public Works Director, sorry for being late. There is going to be a further surfacing work, but I don't think it's going to be, I just drove up it now just to see what it looked like, and I see there's some like lip that could cause a problem for bike riders and that sort of thing. So we'll take a look at it. But I know that the plan is to put like a finish, almost like a seal coat, chip seal sort of a thing over the whole thing. But for those areas where there's that lip, that's not a good thing, so we'll try to address that.
Yes?
So when the project is done on East Dutton, will all East Dutton be redone from a pavement point of view, or are you just going to fill your trench, cover your trench hole?
That's not the plan right now, to repave the whole road.
So you're gonna have all these things like that.
We
You've got indentations now where the sewers are all the way up here.
pretty much for
You're
the
tearing out the
indications.
whole thing, and by the time this doesn't make sense not to do the whole thing, but that's how I can say.
So, let's take a look. All I can tell you right now, we're not planning to pave the whole East Dutton.
And when I ran a paving program for other agencies, one of the reasons we didn't go ahead and pave it was that if there were any failures of the trench, we could see them occurring and then patched it with a full overlay. So when we got to the point where we were certain that the roadway was going to be, had settled and done its thing,
Then
then
you come in and pave it.
yeah, and the one thing I always hate is if I'm gonna put down a beautiful roadway.
Exactly, you don't want to do that before you know it's going to be wrong.
Exactly.
I can understand that.
So this is the East End Booster Station. That's about all you can see from the roadway. But we're going to be reconfiguring that booster station so that we can have the pumps taking it up to the tank as that's finished. So the 16-inch line goes up to Flaming Oaks Court. We start to work on the reservoir, which will be taking out material because we need to have the reservoir at a specific location.
Well, that's a tank underground, it's not.
Well, it's not underground, it's above
Open
ground.
reservoir.
Yeah, no, it's not an open reservoir, it's a steel reservoir. We'll show you that in a second. The next slide. And there, that's a tank with the green line. You probably recognize that one. So next slide. Okay, so the critical functions of the new reservoir would be to enhance fire protection, as we mentioned. A new fire hydrant along the east end near the new reservoir effectively doubles the water capacity. Water capacity essential to survive major earthquakes, fires, and catastrophes, and emergencies. Adequate water supply essential to maintain public health and safety. So, you know, this tank is doing a lot of positive things for this area. It'll give us quick access to water essential for firefighting in an area where that's not really the case now. And maintaining water infrastructure is obviously essential. It's one of the things you can't do without. Adequate water supply and emergency water reserves are essential to public health and safety, and then provides critical redundancies and improves system reliability. So if you're getting more water up on the hill, you're getting better access to the water up on the hill. By having the storage that you need, you'll have access to a water source after an earthquake, because these are designed for earthquakes. Next one. So you probably recognize here the curve of East End, and down around here is where Flaming Oaks Court is. And just up the hill from that would be the access roadway. The actual, we've done a study since the landscape architect has done this particular plan. The roadway is going to come in more, a little bit higher on the roadway, so the folks that live at this place aren't going to have a driveway in their backyard. So we're going to scoot it up a bit, and then we're going to curve it around in here and then back. That's for a couple of reasons. One is that it's will be much more stable and costs less to get that in. Now the water line that I was talking about earlier will stop about here. Part of the project for this tank will be running the water line up to about this location and then coming in towards the tank. I mentioned the booster station that will take this water and run it up to the existing Holiday 1 and 2 reservoirs. This one, we're just siting the location of the pump station at this point. It'll be a later date that gets constructed.
So you said the tank was 85 feet in diameter, you didn't mention the height. How high?
It's about 32 feet.
32 feet.
Right. So we have a cross section that shows that would look.
So is retaining wall is shown in this picture? Is that what that dark gray is? Or?
Yeah, this is a retaining wall across here. And that'll also be shown in the cross section. But and I'll show you in a moment the study that was done by the landscape architect to look at views of this area. But these are the two existing trees that are, those two beautiful trees are up there now. We designed this so that we wouldn't be affecting those trees. In my mind, they're an essential element of this project to protect them. And then we've added a series of trees and bushes and shrubs and then ground cover. Next slide. So these are some of the things that we would be looking at: the valley oak, the coast live oak, the holly leaf cherry that would be lower to the ground, the toyon, and then a mix of a habitat, the grasses, so that we agree with what's out there now, and then the California native wildflower mix we're putting around the site so that it would add some color and some beauty to it. Next slide. So this is a cross section. I think this is your house up here. And as you can see what's going on, there's about a 17% grade on that hillside. And what we would be doing would be down around here, about 30 feet or so. The top of the tank would be about 32. Might be a little bit higher than that because I haven't gotten the final, not really the final design, but I haven't gotten the structural part of the design on this. So it might run maybe as high as 37. And that's about what's drawn here. And then the pump station would be on this side. The future pump station would be on this side. And the idea for putting it on this side was to pretty much hide that as well. So the retaining wall would match the slope that's out there now. And
Will there be fencing put in?
oh, definitely, especially with the retaining wall. So we'll be putting fencing around the site. We want to provide some security for the site. Another question?
Would we see through fencing though? Not,
What?
it won't be like wood solid fence, it would be see-through.
I'm sorry.
See-through fence.
Oh, see-through. It'll probably be a chain link fence.
Okay.
And how high is the retaining wall?
The retaining wall is about, it's somewhere between 28 and 32 feet. So, and the idea for first of all, the reason that the tank is at this elevation is for hydraulic reasons. It's so that the system works. So that the tank needs to be there so that it can supply the water so it can do its job. If we get any higher, then we add pressures that will need to physically put in pressure reducers in the system so we don't blow water heaters. If we get it too low, then the water pressure just doesn't work. So, any other comments? Yes.
retaining wall is, how far does it go around? Like my house is on the other side, so like these guys, I think they'll be relatively okay. But will I be looking right at the tank?
I'll be able to answer that next. But the distance between the tank and itself varies from 15 at the bottom to about 17 up on top.
I think as far as, if you go back to the previous picture, I think your surround went about less than
One more back.
90 degrees.
See right there.
Yeah.
You're asking where this, how far it comes around.
90 degrees.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit longer, but yeah, it's a little more than a half a circle around the tank. And the idea behind this thing is that unless you're standing up here, you're not really going to be seeing much of the retaining wall. But the view shed study that we did, that you can see that as we come next. So go forward a couple or more. Okay, so we did a view shed study of the site. And so the house is here, the roadway along East Dunn. The house is on this side, and then the house is up above the project. So next slide. So for the areas downhill from the site, so this one here is pretty much what you're going to see driving up the roadway just as you go around the curve. So you can see the hillside now, and that will be about what you would see.
Is that what the trees will be initially or after so many years of growth? How high is it to begin with?
Yeah, we're going to use good-sized trees, but they're not going to be able to cover it straight away.
So this picture represents How many years of growth?
It's probably 15 days. It's probably 15 or so.
So what does it look like initially?
Well,
Very small?
as you can see, this is the tank right here. So, for a period of time, you're
Let me
going to
ask
see
the
the
question
tank.
differently. Is it 30 some odd foot height? How tall is the tree going to be when you put it in? 5 feet, 6 feet, 10 feet, 12 feet? How high a tree you put in?
What I've understood now is that it would be about a 15-gallon tree. So the height of it would be about 10 to 12 feet initially. And that would be for the oaks. The bushes, those are going to be slightly larger, a little bit smaller than the trees are now.
Can't we get like a 24-inch box, kind of a tree size? Because my 15 gallons are tiny. And a 20, at least if I put in a 24-inch box or something larger, I'm getting a little tiny bit larger diameter tree. It just seems like they're saying that's a long time, 15 years, to have that 30-foot by 85-foot tank showing. It seems like you guys could try a little harder to have a bigger tree.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we're going to look at. But if you can imagine the difference between a 15-gallon and a 4 square foot tree base, there's quite a lot of money.
Well, I
between the two.
understand that, I understand.
Yeah.
Can we just put out foods as deer go and fertilize them?
Well, actually, after the trees are there, we're going to have an irrigation system in there, a minimum of 2 years, so that we make sure that the trees are in there. The way the specs are written, it would have the landscape contractor going through and replacing the trees and the bushes and the other improvements if they fail. So that would go on.
Down the road, who's going to maintain it when they get to certain heights?
City.
It's the city.
Yeah, it would be the city.
Is the tank green or white?
Pardon me?
Is the tank green or white?
Well, my strong suggestion would be to make it a forest green.
The first picture you showed of an existing tank was white.
Well, we put it up white so you can see it. If you
No,
put
the
it
picture you
green,
showed of a real tank looked like it was white, that's all.
that's, yeah.
But it's going to be green, right?
That's the intent. Well, that's my intent. That would be my strong recommendation. That's something, all of this still needs to go to the city council.
So the trees that you show there aren't in the kind of purple blue area, but in your picture it shows that they go all the way around. So I'm
Oh, yeah, we couldn't show all of this in one slide. There's more slides. So this is just from the downhill side looking up. And what you see here are just the trees that they're putting in. If you can see, here and here and in some of the other areas, the dark brown, basically what they've done is they've taken the Google and they've given the correct contour to it. So it doesn't show any of the existing trees at all.
No, but I meant those little green ones that they're putting in on the very top.
These?
Yeah, they only show on one side. Do the trees not go all the way around?
No, they go all the way around.
Okay.
There's another slide. Let's go to the next slide. So you see, this is from the top side. And this is what you're looking at.
This is back inside right here. That has the back on the side there, doesn't it? Up here, up on top.
This one here?
Isn't that the back of the tank here?
Yeah, this is the green dot, so that's from over here.
Yes.
So that would be looking, so that's the back, yes.
Yeah.
The red dot here is what it would look like from this
I
house.
see.
And the purple dot is what it would look like from this house.
Back up, is your water line that you put next to Jim's house runs by my kitchen window, so now you know where my house is. So where's my house up there?
red hat.
The red hat.
I'm next door to Jim.
You're the red
Oh.
hat.
So you would be, so you would be the red house right here.
So what do I see from my house? Do I see that?
You see this?
So originally I thought by the contour, I would be looking just at the top of the tank. You're saying I'm going to look at quite a height of it, or retaining wall there? I mean, is a retaining wall, from my house, is a retaining wall going to be basically dug down, or does it stick above the ground?
No, well, it has to stick above the ground, maybe 18 inches, but that's just so that we can capture
That's
any
more
water
than
that's
18
coming
inches
down.
by that picture, so.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, what you're looking at is the tank. What you're not seeing is the retaining wall across here. So what you're seeing is from this height, that's not the full height of the tank. And you can see this one is shorter. So as it comes down.
How much of the tank am I going to see there? Is that like 10 or 20 feet? I mean, that looks quite big.
Yeah, I can't answer that without a little more study.
Because originally I thought, when you guys described it before, is I'd be looking down at the top of the tank and wouldn't see 10 to 15 feet because it'd be behind the soil and the retaining wall.
Well, for the most part, you are seeing the top of the tank. I don't know, right this moment, I don't know exactly what that is. But if we go back and, you want to go back to the cross section? Yeah. Oh, there we go. So you can see that, from this, there is some that's hanging up above it. And you can see on this side, this is where the retaining wall heads. So it's more, but it's not the full height of the tank.
My interpretation before was that the height of the shrubs you were going to put in initially would probably cover that last 6 or 8 feet that you see, so it would cover it up. The pictures don't depict that. They look like I see quite a bit of the tank, even when the trees are big. So that's the confusing part to me. My impression when I heard you guys before was the trees were going to cover the front of the tank, the view from my house. And the hill would basically cover, that bottom part of the tank, and then the shrub around it would hide the rest of the tank, so I would see shrubs, not tank. That's not what your pictures show.
Okay. This is what we'll work on it to improve the landscape around the edge, because that's one of the things that I've heard consistently so far.
Because, I talked to Tate, city council meeting, and I'm the one that spoke and said, I really want to see this thing approved at the city council. And one of the things that might be a point was the fire hydrant, which you've done, and the shrubs around, so it hides the tank.
Okay. I want to, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, one of the purposes for the meeting is to hear what you have to say about it and see how we can go ahead and make the modifications to try and meet your needs and your desire. Yeah, so it's not, when I talk about the difference in cost between the say the 15 gallon and the 4 foot square, or 4 square foot a tree being more, I'm throwing that out. I'm not saying that we're only going to go with 15 gallons. I'm just saying that there's going to be a higher cost to that, and so that's something that we need to consider somewhere.
Yeah, and the intent, just to make myself clear, is to hide as much of the tank with some natural surrounding, whatever it takes.
Okay.
And especially, the bunch of us along the ridge there, Kathy's on the other side looking from the other side, some of you people are down below looking up at it, and that one's going to be the hardest one because you got the whole 35 feet to have to hide. But at least for the other 3/4, you got to make sure you do that one.
Well, what's interesting is one of the advantages to the downhill side is that as you're looking up for this, you can put trees down in this area that don't necessarily need to be this whole height.
I know, but your architecture view doesn't show it that way to us, so either fix the architecture view or fix the final thing.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you. Let's go ahead, I think 3.
Question.
Oh, yes, hi.
Is it possible to take the tank design and slope it to the same contour as the mountain? It's in essence of just putting in a big circle. Is there possible to give some type of, and still maintaining your capacity?
No. Not without enlarging the tank significantly. The reason is that the area that you cut out would need to be located elsewhere, because in that area that's cut out, you still have the water coming up in the tank to about 10 to 12 feet below the top of the tank. And so all that...
You couldn't drop down a little more, or perhaps drop the tank down more?
No, because if we did that, then the tank would be much less efficient. And it would be that some of the people that are getting water from the tank are going to get it at 10, they're going to get very, very low water pressure. You know, the range that we like to be in is between 50 and say 75. After 75 PSI, then it starts to get too high. And then there's more risk on the piping system, you know, within your house and the your water heater, things like that. If you get it too low, then you know you just can't get enough out of the faucet.
So Kevin, right now, our water pressure is like 150 PSI. Is that gonna be?
Well, who cares? I'm sorry. It's not going to. Your water pressure up on the top is not going to be affected.
We're sort of looking at the point you're making about affecting people's pressure of the 70 to 80. If we're getting 150 today, how much does 6 feet make a difference in that new tank?
Well, in yours it doesn't, because the distribution of your system and the pressures in your system are tied to the existing Holiday 1 and 2
down below,
reservoir.
the pressures you guys get down below? Anybody-
Yeah.
Below?
Yeah. And you're right. Because you're part of a different distribution system right now, the tank, the advantage to you is this tank is going to be pumping more water, or has the availability to pump more water up the hill. But for the most part, the pressure is going to remain the same. Yes.
So when you show pictures from like this guy's house is the red dot and the green dot, can you show the ones on the other side, like the blue dot at my house?
These guys down here?
Yeah, they're blue.
Sure.
and green.
It's in there. Next one? Next one? Oh, there it is, I'm sorry. So
Okay.
your house is a blue?
Yeah, so I'm with Jim. I can see a lot more than a few feet of that.
Yes.
The thing about it, you won't be able to look at us on our deck anymore.
The good news is he's gonna paint it green, that'll help.
Well,
But
yeah,
it's not something like Richard Michael, that's me. I thought it was gonna be lower, like you were saying.
well, you see, as the project moves forward, there are different things that we learned. And one of the things we did was to study the hydraulics of the tank. So after we went through with the conceptual design and identified where we could fit the tank, in fact, originally we were hoping to put the tank down low enough that it would be covered. But we can't. Well, that would be fun. Well, I guess Jim wouldn't mind if we put it under your house. But the point is that the 780 elevation is a critical elevation for the tank to operate correctly.
Please make sure it is green.
Yes.
Or
Yeah.
brown, or just not
Well-
stark white.
You know, I mentioned earlier that I was a general manager for a district. We went ahead and started painting some of the obnoxious tan-colored tanks. And even on the hillside where everything around it was brown, that green tank with very few bushes around it, or trees, disappeared. It was amazing.
Why don't you look at it every day from my deck?
I walked down the street very fast. I'm sorry.
Anybody else on this? Next slide. Okay, so this is the conceptual schedule right now. The Jackson Well rehabilitation. We should be finished in May. That's what I hear from the contractor. Contractors had a lot of problems meeting the schedule with breakdowns from the rig and encountering large cobbles in the lines. But we're definitely pushing it. At this point, he's telling me that it should be at the end of April, and that I just added a month because I'm worried about that. Then it shows here the bidding process. The bidding process is for the actual rehabilitation of the building. So we're designing the rehab of the building right now. So it'll be new piping, new motor control assemblies, and then connections to the new well. We'll be setting in the motor assembly on top of that. So the building rehabilitation, I put it out there. I think it should be done before February, but I'm giving you at this point the bad news. You know, the tank tonight was showing you not exactly what you wanted, but just to let you know that there's going to be some issues with it. The Oak Canyon booster, we're at April now, so construction, as David mentioned earlier, is going to be starting soon. The East Dun water transmission main, we're going to be putting that out sometime in June. I showed it ending completely in December. The pipe should be in the ground by then, but they're going to have to come back and cut the edges of the trench and put in the asphalt to meet the existing grades there. The emergency reservoir, that's a hillside. The design is expected to be done actually in July, but at the beginning of July. So the end of June 30th is the date they've said it would be done. The bidding process should start in November, and then construction soon after that. And then the last one, the East Dun Booster Station rehab. The design really won't start until after we're certain of what's going on with the tank, and we're certain what's going on with the 16-inch water main, because the pumps, it's very critical for the pumps to know exactly what elevations we're going to be pumping to, what sort of volumes, what sort of issues we're going to have with the tank. And the other thing is, by the time the reservoir gets done, we want to meet the construction. So about the time we're filling the new reservoir, we'll have the pump station improvements finished. Yes?
So have you already done all the studies of making sure that there's no erosion or anything because of digging into the hill and stuff? Is that work done, or is that part of these processes here?
Yes, it is. We've worked on finishing up on the SEPA. We've done the geotechnical, the initial geotechnical study, and that was establishing that this site was a good site. And now we're doing the structural geologic study.
So that's not done yet then, or?
Not entirely, no.
So one of the questions I asked Steve was, can we see a copy of the report that says it's okay for you to dig a hole in the hill?
Sure. Sure.
A big hole.
Big one.
So Kevin, what do you say, 800,000 gallons of water weighs a lot. Do you have to put cement feeders down under the tank for the?
That's what we'll know. Right now, it appears that the bedrock that sits under that site that we did in the initial study, it appears that we'll be able to lay out the tank on it's a very specific grid that has to be done. It'll be a concrete a ring that the steel will lay on top of and be attached to, so that it doesn't rock during an earthquake. I mean, they'll try its best to rock during an earthquake, but we don't want it to tip.
But there has to be some kind of piers going down into the ground to make sure it doesn't slide downhill. Right? I mean, it just doesn't sit on a mesh frame, does it?
Most every tank does.
Even on the side of the hill?
Yeah. That's what this geotechnical, the more more robust geotechnical studies about. There may be piers, we may make it, we may cut it in deeper. Typically, it's about a 6 to 8 foot concrete foundation. But the initial study showed that we don't have any slides in that particular area. The bedrock
So you
is.
don't have to listen to pile drivers sending things in the ground, right? Because that rock is impossible to dig.
Yeah, yeah. No, you very seldom put piers in the ground for tank unless you're elevating it. And in this case, we're just setting it on top of the ground.
Question, sir.
Yes?
So if you have an 800,000 gallon tank and there's an earthquake and somehow that water is released, what is the mitigation? Have you designed it so that it would withstand an earthquake, or is somebody who's below that going to be washed out?
That's one of the things, that's part of the study. I've seen the preliminary study for that. And what we're setting it up and doing is putting it down into the canyon that's below us and off to the side.
Oh, that's fine.
So that was one of the other things that we looked at. That was one of the criteria we did in the initial study, was to know where the water could go. Okay, any other questions on this?
Is that a larger tank that you showed us?
Pardon me?
Is that tank larger than you showed us before? Have you guys changed the size?
No, it's actually the same size.
How does it compare with the size of the one up on O'Daniel?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, there's definitely a smaller tank, but it serves larger people.
The one about that street?
The one on O'Daniel.
Okay, and the one, the booster station, we're not investing in the tank, so.
Yeah, that one's 500,000. Yeah, if I remember right, do you remember the capacity of the tank that sits above the?
I don't think
Yeah.
it's 500,000.
Okay.
But it's pretty small, definitely.
It's really going to be smaller.
So this is at least capacity.
So I can get you that.
It would be a good way to compare, go and look and say, this just what's existing and already there.
Oh, I think we can find another tank then. Okay, what about Edmonton tank?
That's
Too big. I guess maybe they don't have the tanks.
obviously not. So one of the nice things about, I don't know how many of you have email, but I can go ahead and put you on a list and give you my email account. Okay.
Or she put it on next door for us.
I can put it on next door if you put your email again on the, even if you don't want to be added to, if you're not on the e-blast list or don't want to be added to it. If you did put an email though, that helps us know who specifically was at this meeting. But yes, we'll share information through Nextdoor, and then hopefully you all share it with people who aren't on Nextdoor, because even though the Jackson Oaks neighborhood is like almost the largest neighborhood on Nextdoor, there's still lots of residents that are not on Nextdoor. So it's an excellent communication tool, but I know it doesn't reach everybody.
74% of Jackson Oaks residents are on it.
Yeah, which is great. Like, it's great.
Did you say you were going to post your presentation on Nextdoor?
I'd like to, yes.
Bruce?
I haven't done I haven't used Nextdoor, but
I don't think they can post them. Can you post them on
Dave was talking about putting a YouTube link, and then also Maureen, you mentioned the city, I think?
Yes, this is being filmed tonight, and who's David?
David Rivers, where do you see?
Oh, yes, that's so wonderful, because the other thing we can do is we can put it on the city YouTube as well. So then it's even searchable. But yes, that link can be posted on Nextdoor, so that anybody on Nextdoor can also see it, and it certainly could be sent by email to others, if they aren't on Nextdoor. And if we have it on YouTube, people could always go to the City of Morgan Hills YouTube channel and find it there, or just search on YouTube for it.
If you guys have a second, I'll show you some of the sewer improvements that we're making for this area as well.
So I do have one that piece that I want to make sure about that. I saw that the west side reservoir sketch that Maureen had on some of yours that had this, the solar farm on it. Can I get some assurances for us that we're not going to have any solar farm up here in the future?
I can tell you this, there is no part of this design that includes a solar. If you'd like, I can show you, here's some of these sewer improvements. So, this is at East Bend. We're here. So one of the things we're working on is the lift station F. We're rehabilitating that station. It's been around a long time. So we're changing out the motor controls, we're changing out the motors, a lot of the piping in there, the backflow, part of the backflow valves that are in that area. And in fact, we're doing that not just for J and K, we're also doing it for F and D. And then one of the other projects that we're working on now is an access roadway so that we can get to the sewer manholes and sewer lines that are in that area. Right now, that's a big problem for staff to get down there and get that work. So, and then next slide. And then, pretty much what's that? Is there a question?
Yes, on the slide that you just went through with the access road to the sewer line. Where is that exactly?
We have an existing easement now, and what we're going to do is to go ahead and take advantage of that easement and just improve it so that we can get vehicles down there occasionally or whenever there's an emergency.
I just couldn't read the print, it's so small.
It says Oak Leaf Lane Access Road.
Okay, so where's Dunn Avenue?
Dunn is here.
Okay.
So this is a project that's actually been going on for a while. We've been in contact with the neighbors there, I understand. And so now we're going to go ahead and actually construct the roadway. So, yes?
One other question, I'm taking you back a little bit, but I was just thinking, that there's a culvert that goes at the bottom of our hill, and I'm just wondering, is that going to get messed up by the tank and the water path, because the water seems to go down and go around that corner, you can see the water spilling out down around the corner. Are they going to redo that, or?
Yes, that's part of the project. Yeah, we will be interrupting that existing beatage, but we have to make sure that it still functions. So we'll be replacing it. So, is there anything else that I can talk with you about? Yes?
Question. I thought that they were going to resurface the top of Thomas Grade. So you're saying they're not really going to resurface all of Thomas Grade. It's just going to be as those patches are now, and they're going to try to smooth it out a little bit more? Or what is the final outcome?
Well, what I do know about that is, we did some pretty big improvements.
Oh, you
to the
did.
road,
I love
yeah.
the improvements. Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you're welcome. Well, I think that the plan is to, when I talked to the engineer who's doing that, was to have like a chip seal put over the top of it. But you pointed out, and I noticed that that lip that would not be a safe thing. That we have to address that. So he may have some designs for a little more of the asphalt paving itself. But I know the whole thing is planned to have like a kind of a traction surface put over the top of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Stay tuned. Is there some way we can inform everybody what exactly we're doing up there? Okay. Yeah, good question.
So, if there's nothing else, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Maureen.
Oh, yeah, just briefly. I feel like some of you are my best friends from all the talking we do on Nextdoor, but I just also wanted to say thank you so much for letting us come up here and use this facility. It's nice to be able to come to you rather than trying to have everybody come other places. Hopefully it's more convenient. It's a lovely facility and we appreciate it. The other thing I just wanted to share too is we're going to be having a lot of additional outreach efforts in the months to come. Not related to this project specifically, but just related to what the community priorities are for Morgan Hill as we look forward. I don't know if any of you were part of a kind of a polling type survey that happened both online and through phone calls. And the next step in that whole process and continuing to understand what the community really values and needs and holds as a high priority is a more open survey similar to the ones that you get links from me all the time. And that anybody will be able to take those. It's just kind of sharing again the things that are important. We probably would like to actually come up here and meet with any neighbors in Jackson Oaks and Holiday Lakes if we can come here into this facility again. So more to come, just wanted to make you aware, and we so appreciate your coming this evening and all the communication that goes on, up in this area. It's good, and we appreciate all the feedback we get from you and that I see on a regular, practically daily basis. And so we encourage it, and we thank you. And if there were just any other general issues, I was here just in case other things came up, because there's a lot of stuff going on in our community right now, as I know you're aware.
I'd also like to thank you very much. This has been very informative for the process, and we're looking forward to, well, we're doing our best right now, and we're going to try even harder to make these projects successful and something positive for your lives. So thank you very much.
Thank you.